Come on over here, look what I found. Look at the finish on this hull. The varnish that if I had hair, I could comb it in there. Randy, you amaze me sometimes. Hi there, this is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one. Randy, come on over here, look what I found. Over here we've got three pieces of lumber. And one, we look at it, and they're all matched this little jib boom I have here in my arm. The biggest one is the mainmast, or the mast actually. There's only one mast on this boat. And then the center one, it's a little longer, and there's a shorter one on the outside here. Now, the longer one is going to be the boom for this boat. And when you see the shorter one like that, that lets you know it's probably a gaff. So we're talking about a gaff rig boat here. This is a Herreshoff 12.5 design progeny. Back in 1898 or so, a man named Emmons went to Nat Herreshoff and said, "We like to sail around Buzzard Bay, but it gets pretty wild, and a bunch of my older buddies and I want a boat to go sailing in." Herreshoff designed a boat with a 15-foot water line. She was actually, I believe, about 24 feet overall. They handled the what's been referred to in a recent article, the snotty weather of Buzzards Bay. Emmons, after a while, said, "You know, these are great boats, but we'd like to have something that the kids could sail in, and maybe put grandma in the boat and go sailing as well." And so Nat sat down and drew up what has now become known as the 12.5. It's a 15-foot sloop, gaff-rigged. The original boats had integral ballast in their keel.
So why do they call it the 12.5?
When the boat sits in the water from the bow to the stern, it's 12.5 feet long. They did that a lot with boats back in those days. When you talked about things like the New York 30s and the New York 40s and the New York 50s, there might be 20 feet, 10 feet hanging off the stern, 10 feet off the bow. There were only 250, I think, original Herreshoff manufacturing boats. Then the war hit, and then about 1943, they licensed Cape Cod Shipbuilding and Quincy Adams Boatyard to build versions of the same thing. Around 1950, I think they stopped all production. Cape Cod took the same mold and made it into fiberglass, and it became known as the Bullseye. And they will not let those race against the 12.5.
That's not fair. Yeah.
Another gentleman, Bill Harding, created the dough dish, which he took all the lines off about 3 different 12.5s and consolidated them into to produce a fiberglass version of the 12.5. Now, in the meantime, a man named Joel White came along and wanted to take the design and make it a little bit more user-friendly by getting rid of all the lead in the bottom and put a centerboard in. Ah. And so that makes the boat much more trailerable, makes it much more easy to move around. But there could be as much as 800 or 900 pounds of extra ballast in that 12.5. Otherwise, it's the same boat. Those are called havens. And the havens race as separate fleets. The one we're looking at today was built by Bath Maritime School of Boat Building. This particular boat was suggested as a build by an owner who wanted to help perpetuate the school and keep it going, and the school is still going. They're a lovely boat. I personally had some good time in 12.5s. Let's take a quick look at this boat and see what you think. This is the centerboard version. As you can see, she's sitting on a nice trailer. This is a triad trailer. And so you can back this right down the water and load her right on. The finish on here is beautiful, and the owner sailed it for about a week. That was about 10 years ago.
No kidding.
So this boat is new, and she's a wooden hull, and look at the finish on this hull. I mean, can you believe that's wood?
No.
You really have to look closely, and once in a while you'll see a slight indentation of a fastener, but just almost impossible. Beautiful green bottom, red boot top, and the varnish that if I had hair, I could comb it in there. You know, it's just really a deep, deep finish on that. And look at the combings inside this boat. Just before we go aboard here, Randy, just look at the rudder back here. She's basically an outboard rudder. The tiller goes right through the transom here. And here's your pindles and gudgeons and so forth. And it's got a long bit of a keel. It's fairly small forward, then a little deeper aft here. So she's going to have a good bite underwater. These boats they say they just don't tip over. They're very rock solid. So what do you think about this boat, Randy?
Well, I kind of expected to have 2 wheels on it.
2 wheels? Why would we have wheels on a sailboat? What brings that to mind?
Well, it's called velo.
Oh, you crazy cyclist, you. Yeah, it's very hard to get Randy off the highway sometimes. It could be the owner's initials, you know.
Could be,
Victor
yeah.
Emmanuel Louise Orthotics.
Could be. Could be a Latin root for speed, right?
It could be that too.
Velocity,
Yes,
sure.
velocity. So I'm going to take a look aboard, and I'll show you how much room this puppy has, okay? Randy, come on up. Where are you? I don't know where you are. Come on up.
Oh, just hiding
There you
over
are,
here.
pal.
Oh, there we
Okay. Look at this. Now, we've got the Captain Q measuring stick in here, right? And do we have room for more people?
Could fit probably 4 more cues over there.
I think
3 more?
we could put 8 people in here. Let me just show you how you rig this boat. You take the mast, and you lay the mast down like so, right across the end of the boat here, okay? And then there's this bracket right here, and you lift up the whole mast. It's not really heavy, it's sort of unwieldy, and you get it up quite high, and then you, boom, set it right down into this ring here, and the foot of it will sit down in the notch right here behind Sea Dog. See, there's a circle here, and then there's a little notch that you can see right there, and that puts the mast in the correct direction going forward. All these lines here, there'll be a line for the main halyard, the jib halyard, the throat hoist on the gaff, and the head of the gaff right here. So you've got all your halyards right here and your control, and they'll come right down and lash off right here in the cockpit. The headstay takes the jib, and the jib goes on hanks right up the headstay right there at the bow, and the jib boom will hook right onto the bow piece there.
Onto this little hook right here.
That's it exactly, right. And then you sheet it back here to preset blocks for the fair leads for the jib. And the boom just swings back and forth in the center. And that allows you to just tack the boat back and forth without touching a thing. So to trim the jib, you have a block here, and it goes from there over here and then back and leads and comes back into the cockpit. So no matter what side you're tacking on, all you have to do is tie it up or undo it from this one cleat right here.
So you just have it lashed down here,
Right,
and then there's your block there.
exactly. Now, in the first one I sailed on in Kennebunkport, they had a little door here, and you could actually put an anchor and a rode and all that sort of stuff up inside there. And here, in this case, this is just a waterproof bulkhead. So if this boat should swamp, she's going to stay afloat because of this. And then there's also some flotation aft. If you need to get home, we have an oar for you.
All right.
I think there should be another oar here, and I don't know where it is. It's either there or here. And this may be the only oar we know about.
Or anywhere.
And they have a set of oar locks right here. Drop-in brass oar locks. And look at that nice leather binding on this. I think we'd want to order another oar for this boat. But otherwise, she lives and fits very nicely underneath that seat. On top of the centerboard trunk is a sheave which rotates, and this wheel will roll. And this is designed to take the main sheet from the boom to come down here and pass through this set of jam cleats there. It would be it'll be a line that'll come down from the sail like so, go through here, and then jam in there. So as you're sailing the boat with that thing through the block, you don't have to hold on to the main sheet the whole time.
Yep, and it pivots around nicely.
And it will swing around, so whichever side of the boat you're on, you'll have control. We notice here the centerboard pennant, as this is called, a centerboard pennant, comes straight up through the boat, and I think I don't know, it may be partially buoyant, which means it'll come up by itself pretty much, or it's probably weighted to some degree, so it will drop. And when we bring it up, there's a cleat on this side that we can just cleat this off to, right down here. A lot of nice cushions on this boat. So these are really beautifully done, aren't they?
Yeah, they're
really
very,
nicely
very
done.
pretty.
Good sun deck area. Every boat you want to always have a little anchor line and an anchor somewhere. And need someplace to store it. And here they've got a place for that. Oh, and you have to have emergency supplies too.
Oh yeah, that's when
Even on these little boats.
when you get to your destination for the day.
Unfortunately, if you're really hungry, there's nothing to cook on here. We'll take suggestions from the crowd out there. What do they think this is? We found it sitting on the cockpit. It's made out of the same canvas. There it is. Has a top, bottom, sides. What is that? And why was it sitting there and made out of the same material? We have a long cover here for the tiller. And is that a handsome piece of wood there?
Oh, it's beautiful.
And that tiller will just jam right into the rudder stock at the top.
Those are practically the first fingerprints it's seen.
It is. Uh-oh. You're right. I'm going to clean that off. Here we have a boom crush. We just talked about those on another boat, right? And this is kind of a simple, clever one. You can't put it right in the center, so they put it off to the side and put a bend in the piece so it wouldn't be in the way of the rudder. Back here is the Traveler, about as simple as you can be. We got a brass rod and a couple of deck fittings here to glue it down. And look at these little stops. These are little stops, I think, more than anything else. They're little Turk's head. When the boat jives or tacks, this is going to slide. So rather than hit the brass fitting here, it's going to quiet it down. It's really a beauty, isn't she?
It's gorgeous, yeah. We did see one back in Marion, right? When we were looking at the Morris Day Sailor, didn't we stumble upon one?
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, we were peering over the edge of one, I think, when we opened up that segment on the Morris 36.
So who's this boat for, do you think?
Well, the boat was flat out designed back in 1914 for kids and families and even grandmothers, was sort of a phrase they put in there, because if Granny is in the summer house up in Maine and the kids are driving her nuts, she'll say, let's go sailing, and she'll take this boat out and sail it. And it takes no strength at all to handle the sails, to raise them, to trim them in, to do anything. Marvelous combination of simplicity of design, and you can always tell a Herreshoff boat coming after you if you look up at the bow and the hollowed cheeks there, which help maintain comfort back in the cockpit. Okay, Randy.
Hey.
We have been looking to do some smaller boats because people are looking for day sailors from time to time. And I am not kidding. 2 minutes after I was told about this boat being available, an issue of Soundings shows up in my mailbox. And in Soundings is a wonderful 2-page spread on the Herreshoff 12.5. And that's what we have here. We have, actually, it's a Herreshoff Haven, which is a 12.5, slightly modified and given a centerboard by Joel White. It was built by Bath Maritime Workshop, and the owner bought it by way of helping the Maritime Workshop. The boat went into the water and was in the water for about a week, and they took it out, and I think the owner, they said, I think he put it in his living room because the boat is impeccable. And they're really fun boats. I have had a chance to sail one. There's also an active racing fleet for these, and different classes let different boats race together at different times. Some have their own specific class, some are all encompassing. I think I gotta rate this boat right away.
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay, here we go. She floats, 10, boom, right there. She comes from Nat Herreshoff. There's another 4. What other boat can your grandmother sail? I gotta get her another 7. Whew. 21 for this 12.5 progeny, the Haven by Joel White. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. We're having too good a time doing these things, so you can hit the bell or not. Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here,
Yeah.
or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up on our next episodes. A little bit early.
That's pretty cool. Previews. You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
You know, Instagram's not a place.